Starfield keeps making things worse, and I love that.
There's an individual that works at Bethesda.
Look at this, a 15-part unhinged rant. I'm gonna enjoy this.
Somebody who is involved or was involved with the game named Starfield. Funny how disconnected some players are from the realities of game development, yet they speak with complete authority. I mean, I can guess what it takes to make a Hostess Twinkie, but I don't work in a factory, so what the hell do I really know? Not a lot.
How many times have we talked about this exact situation, this exact take? I am a consumer. You are a consumer. We are not developers. We do not care about your trials, turbulations, and issues as a developer. The same way you developers don't care about us and our lives, we don't care about yours. It's your job to make a good game. I could not care less why you failed at making a good game. I care only if it's good or bad. I don't care why it's bad. I don't care why Starfield has 15 loading screens. Remove them. If there's a problem with the engine and the engine doesn't allow something, switch the engine. But the engine costs I don't care. I literally could not care less. Okay? The team of developers is incompetent. Fire them. But they're gonna starve and their families are gonna be on the street. They're most likely American and don't have families anyway. I don't care. But Bob's family just died in a plane explosion and he's mentally now stunted. Well, I don't care yet again. Again, we don't care about this. We're not supposed to care about this. We're consumers. If good, good. If bad, your problem. Oh my god, I'm so tired of developers thinking that we need to care about them. We don't. And this is such an easy take that Asmongold is probably going to say it, considering he started using this take after I start talking about consumers. Good job, Asmon. You're slowly learning.
Well, what the hell do I really care? Not a lot. You think I...
Yes, this is the easiest take alive. True.
Give a fuck about your problems as a game developer? You brought out a game that didn't even have a fucking map for a city. You go to a loading screen to do anything in the game. Like, I don't care about game development problems. And also, if it's a game development problem, then why do other game developers not have the problem?
Ooh, also actually true, yeah. Bethesda's a classic example of everyone has went around these issues for 10 years. Bethesda keeps crying about the fact that they can't. It's impossible.
It doesn't even make sense. Oh, this is a problem with game development. Well, then why do some games not have this problem? Well, then I guess it's not with game development. It's a you problem. It's not the consumer's responsibility to figure out, like, for example, how many of you guys, like, I've said this many times with streaming, I never try to put it on you guys if, like, the content isn't good and anything like that. If people don't like the stream or something like that day, then that's just the way it is. It's not the custom.
Doesn't he usually say that if you don't like something, leave? He doesn't need you or something like that? I don't know, I'm just asking.
Customer's responsibility to understand some sort of issue that you have. Part of me gets it, really. When you're a consumer and spend money on things, it gives you the right to complain about those things. You're right. True.
Yeah.
I spend a lot of money on games every year, and sometimes it takes a lot for me to not scream into the internet's collective consciousness.
What was the point of the first tweet, then, if you're gonna make a second one and completely flip-flop?
Don't complain about games on social media for two main reasons. Number one, I know how hard it is to make games, and I have too much respect for my fellow devs. And number two,
I have absolutely no respect for developers. Hey, if we could introduce some, whips and torture devices to game developers, hey, you got my vote there, Chief. You know what? Fuck Biden, fuck Trump. I'm voting for the guy who's gonna put whips and chains back in the office workplace of developers. Because that's gonna probably be really effective.
I work in a game studio, it would be uncool and unprofessional for me to do so. That's the real reason. You don't do it because think about how many people mauled it out about Christopher Judge making a joke about the Call of Duty campaign.
Who's Christopher
so yes,
Judge?
That's the real reason. It looks bad socially. It looks bad professionally. That's the reason why he doesn't do it. It has nothing to do with number one.
True.
At least not, like...
Hey, someone big on Twitch knows that that's true, because when was the last time someone big on Twitch ever said anything bad about someone else big on Twitch? Yeah, it doesn't happen.
If it was only number 1, he'd probably say it sometimes, but because of number 2, he never says it at all. Most people don't have these constraints and are free to post whatever they want. Well, I don't think this is like a very good argument.
It's not. It's
so
horrible.
You're saying, well, wait a minute, like, I don't even understand this. So basically, it's okay for other people to do it, but you would do it if you also didn't work for a game studio, because that's one of the reasons. And also, he still has...
He's a Bethesda developer, and his pixelated picture looks like his head is a cone. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not exactly trying to find the meaning of life in his tweets.
A lot of these same opinions, by the way, because it's not like he doesn't feel like games have problems, because he literally explained it, that it takes a lot for him not to scream into the internet's collective consciousness. So it's not like he thinks games are good. It's just he's not expressing himself.
I think this guy wants to complain about everyone not liking his magnum opus, which is Starfield, which is sad if you think that's a magnum opus, But at the same time, he doesn't want to get too much flack for it, so he's trying to appease everything. Game development is hard. You should not complain about this. But I understand that game developers should be complained about. He's trying to play every part, and this makes it nonsensical. This is why everyone hates fence sitters.
Most people don't have these constraints and are free to post whatever they want. The internet is a glorious wild, wild west, and I wouldn't have it any other way. And there was a time when I exercised that right very freely. Whenever I was writing game reviews for Adrenaline Vault forever ago, I was absolutely the person who would say whatever I wanted about a game, good or bad. Sometimes the good was over-enthusiastically too good, and sometimes the bad was me being a sarcastic asshat. But throughout the time, I actually had no inkling what actual game development was like, how hard the designers, programmers, artists, and everybody else works.
As much as I understand it, the artists are always done with the game. And half the time, everyone else is done with the game, or even less. If someone's not... Dude, if there's someone who's not working hard in game development, it's definitely the artists, okay? I hate artists.
Struggle to bring a vision to life with constantly shifting resources.
Dude, we could take every artist in the world, put them in a giant cage match, and let half of stop it only when half of them are gone. Do it 5 more times, and the world would still have too many artists in it. That's how wild artists are.
Sources the stress. This is another fantasy that different people in creative industries sell themselves. The fantasy is that anybody gives a fuck about how hard it is. I wonder how hard it was to, you have people that are working on the fucking highway, I-35, every day, moving concrete around, having to work in, sometimes 100-degree heat, wearing a fucking hard hat in the middle of the pavement for 8 hours a day.
Is this like some kind of trying to be relatable attempt or something like that? Because he's way overselling it. Usually it's a lot of the work is done by heavy machinery. I mean, maybe America is back in the Middle Ages. I'm not sure. I'm not American, but he is. I can already tell that he's clueless about what he's talking about. Oh boy, yeah, dude. It's been forever. I think even Africa has gone over, people just, shoveling things on the roads to fix them with concrete. It's not even concrete that's actually used on the roads. It's asphalt, dude.
Every single job has problems, but I'll tell you fucking thing. If I go over that highway and there's a bump, I don't give a fuck about how hot it was. I want the bump fixed. I don't care. Oh, but it's hard. Too fucking bad. Fix the bump, bitch.
True.
Nobody cares about the problems of your job. Everybody has a hard job. Everything's difficult. Whenever I'm streaming, I have to deal with people that might want to fuck with me in real life. Is that good? You have to deal...
That sounds like a lie, but okay.
Deal with stalking, swatting, doxing, all of these serious real problems. Do I ever sit around and complain and talk about that?
Yes. Actually, as much as I know, yeah, actually, yes. The answer is a lot.
About how hard it is? Fuck no, because nobody wants to hear about it. It's not an issue. You never hear about any of that shit from me. Because everybody, how many of you guys have problems at your fucking job? How many of you guys are in an area with chemicals that you think aren't necessarily good for you, or some sort of substance that's not good for you? How many of you guys have to do something that you don't want to
What does that even mean?
do? How many of you
Is the implication here that that people are working jobs with chemicals and they don't have safety precautions? What are we talking about? The Brazilian cartel?
guys have shifting resources? How many of you guys have stress? And does that fucking matter to the customer? Does that matter to your manager? Does that matter to the market whenever you put something out there that's weak? Nobody gives a fuck about your problems. Nobody cares about how you feel. It doesn't matter. And
stop trying to over-Trump me. He watches my videos. He knows what it is. It's a battle.
Never did, and it never will. The only time that people care about it is after the fact, and so they can just make you feel better. It's not real. Nobody gives a fuck about how you feel.
Not real?
Jesus.
Okay, back to the tweets, princess.
So pathetic. I swear to God, some game developers, there's like this fucking strain.
Stop taking out your pathetic, enlaced anger that you have no outlet to express. He's going so hard because he's pissed that someone else can't actually express his anguishes online. And, you know, gets criticism, but who cares? He can't. So now he's going off on this guy for his own repressed angers. What a classic situation we have here. Psychology 101.
Of game developers.
Pathetic also.
That are like in this constant battle to be like recognized for having a hard job. It's like streamers that are like fixated around people feeling sorry for them for being streamers. Shut the fuck up. If you don't like it, get another job. Like, I'm fine with...
Said the guy who streams on his second account, because the stresses of trying on his first account are too much, so he wants to stream on his second account. I mean, yeah, we're... Oh, boys, this is the Asmongold help hotline. It's no longer Starfield video. It's the Asmongold mental help hotline. Sir, if he goes on his first account and someone calls him bald, he has a mental breakdown and he needs a mental health episode, okay? Soon he's gonna have to make a third account because the stresses of the second account are too much. Ah, dude.
With people talking every once in a while about how this is. But you never rationalize a problem that the audience has by trying to make them feel sorry for you and guilt-tripping them. Get the fuck out of here.
That's not even how it
works. Article is right, though. It's people who say they know, but they don't. It's not about good or bad. What are they saying? Like, what is the specific statement?
I mean, the specific statement would be that gamers don't understand how game development is hard, which is true. I think all of us can mostly agree with that. But at the same time, that statement doesn't matter for, you know, consumers, because what do we honestly care? We don't. If being a game dev is hard, well then stop being a game dev. The world is gonna honestly just thank you, because everyone who worked on Starfield should be banned off of every other game that ever will come out.
Because no, I actually don't agree with them that this is some sort of I don't think that game development is even nearly as hard as these people are making it out to be. Do you want to know how I fucking know that? It's because somebody can make a mod that solves a problem for the game in 24 hours. For free. This isn't...
Well, yeah. But that logic is very stupid, okay? There's always going to be people who are talented, people who, you know, put in more effort and whatnot. That doesn't mean it's easy, okay? A lot of the things I do are easy in my eyes, but I know that they are complicated for the average person. Like, business and finance in general is a complete enigma for the average person. And I'm like, how do you not understand this? It's super simple, and everyone else is like a drooling moron. Hey, people don't understand this.
Isn't me complaining about my job. I've experienced all these things, and I will again. That's the nature of AAA game development. Good, all right. But I also have a great position. I'm still gainfully employed after 21 plus years. A blessing considering the thousands of layoffs this year. Yep, true. Let's see here. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind because the internet. But my position, I can't not share the truth. And the truth is, nobody sets out to make a bad game. That doesn't mean that they should have made a bad game. And the game, most of the game devs are incredibly talented, even if the game they release isn't up to par. Really? So how talented can they be if a random modder can solve a problem that takes the team months? How talented can they really be? Do you think?
That has nothing to do with the team. Again, this is a blatant misunderstanding of how businesses work in general. Okay? The not introduction of DLSS or whatever it's called in Starfield, yeah, I made fun of it through. It should have been out at the start. But chances are, it was the higher-ups who said, hey, we're not going to waste time on this DLSS thing. We have more important things. And then because everyone was incompetent and everything fell apart, they ran out of time to even implement the other things that they wanted. So the idea of implementing DLSS or whatever was completely lost into the void at that point. So, again, it's not the game's devs' ideas of not implementing DLSS. It's the fact that other things, they wanted to, but there are more important things out there to do.
I think that the people that are working on, at what point is there any actual mistake that anyone can have any accountability for? Have you ever thought that having a corporate structure that's so large with so much levels of iteration that nobody can ever be at fault for anything is a very bad way to design things? Because if you have it that way, you can never assign blame and fix problems because you don't know where they come from?
Completely not true. Look at Google, look at Amazon. There are tons of companies that's corporate structure is way more complex than anything that Bethesda can ever dream of having even. Microsoft, again, well, they are under Microsoft. Things are going to change for the better, my boys. But yeah, it's just bad. It's not the fault of corporate structures or anything. It's just the fault of people being bad in general. This has nothing to do with corporate structures. It's just people are bad.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe the problem is that everything is such a granular thing that people are responsible for eyebrows on every character that nobody's actually ever responsible for why Sarah in the game looks like a bad version of AI. And the personality is an even worse version of AI. I don't care.
I don't know. I kind of have a sweet spot for Sarah because she looks like she's mentally disabled but yet fully intact. You know what I'm saying?
Care about how talented they are or not. You've engineered a situation that creates failure. That's the truth. And no, I'm not going to just buy the idea that these people are super fucking understanding for everything whenever you have a modder that can solve the problem in a day. No. Especially not whenever the only peek that you ever got under the hood for why Diablo 4 was bad was the stash thing. And doesn't that tell a fucking story? The people that are making these decisions, that are working on these games, are probably just as fucking incompetent as you think they are. They actually don't know what the fuck they're doing. PoE even had.
God. He should give me credit for these opinions.
Another stash. Yes, true. And the game devs are incredibly talented, even if the game release isn't up to par. I'm going to tell you something. The person who designed the character models in Starfield isn't talented.
Not talented.
And they should never design another character model again.
Yeah.
They're trash. Every character model in the game looks like trash. It's pathetic. You have like indie studios that are making better quality.
Oh man, he's actually saying bad things. By the way, the last time Asmongold said bad things about Starfield and he was critical of it, he deleted that video. I have the only copy of that video because I watched it. And people are asking, hey, where's the original? Why can't I go to his video? The link 404s. Yeah, I wonder if this is gonna also be a delete of the video because again, bad for business.
stuff than this. That's
what
not
if he doesn't get Elder Scrolls 6 at this rate?
talent. See, I never knew this before, but if nothing else, a video game development is a series of concessions and tough decisions. There's that perfect game that you want to make, and then that game that you can make. Really? Well, tell that to Larian. There is always the game that you can make, and the game that you want to make. Where is the concession? Like, what concessions are we talking about here?
There was no concession made when they made all the story complete Dogwater. There was no concession made when they made the inventory system bad. There was no concession made when they made the shipbuilding a UI unfunctional garbage. There was no concession made when they copy-pasted the same exact follower 7 times over with the same personality. These things did not require any concessions. These things were just a complete fabrication of being bad at your job.
Concession to not have features in the game that were in Skyrim? Maybe the problem is that you're making too many concessions. Have you ever thought that, like, maybe the structure of making the game is the problem? If you have a system that spits out shit, then maybe you should change the system. So, like, I don't understand this idea. Like, I work at a company that is structurally created in order to create garbage. And then it's creating garbage. How did this happen? It's not our fault. Yes, it is. You're part of the system. The person who made the system's at fault. 3 dudes making Valheim. I think actually the number was 5, but the point is still the same. It's not the devs. The devs don't decide when the games come out. It doesn't matter.
We know, by the way, a lot of the things about the devs are people who try and work is a lie. Because Anthem, the devs didn't do anything for... They literally started making the game in the, last months before release. Remember Anthem? Yeah, that game. The devs didn't do anything. They did not have any problems about anything. It's just they didn't make anything for the game. That's it. That's why Anthem was bad. We know so many stories where everyone's talking about this. Okay, we have 3 years to make this game, and the first year and a half, no one from the developer team is even doing anything because there's no rush. We know so many stories that literally explain that crunch in with developers only exists because of ineptitude. Because they do not do anything at the start and then they try to rush and do everything at the end. The devs are incompetent. There is no excuse for it. We already know that is unquestionable truth.
Still decided on what Sarah looks like. They still decided on all of the infamous bugs in Starfield. And also, I don't care.
Well, they didn't actually decide on the bugs. Like, come on, that's really stupid to say.
About whose fault it was, fundamental. I don't care if it's, Bill's fault on the design team. I don't care about that. What I'm saying is that you can't say that you have this massive collection of super talented people when nothing in the game is good, except for the shipbuilding. I'll tell you, whoever made the shipbuilding in Starfield should leave the company.
Whoever made the shipbuilding should just directly get a tree branch and a rope and, the rest.
And join a company that actually respects what they're doing. They're, fucking, pearls before swine. Yeah, they should go work at a real studio that knows how to make a real game. What if the game engine is shit and the devs are just making miracles?
No. This is the same engine that Skyrim was built on. Skyrim is a 10 times better game than this, and I'm not even a Skyrim fan. Okay? This is the same engine that pretty much Fallout New Vegas was built upon. And Fallout New Vegas is the best Bethesda game, and ironically, it's not made by Bethesda, as we all already know. But yeah, no. This is not the engine's fault at all. Because if it was the engine's fault, there would be no good games made. But there are.
So if the game engine is shit, did it get worse from Skyrim? The game engine is shit, and that's why the dialogue is bad? The game engine is shit, and that's why the main story is the most boring sci-fi story I've ever heard in my entire life. On a very fundamental narrative level, the game is terrible. Like, it's just so fucking pathetic to play Starfield and then go play the intro for Cyberpunk. It's actually fucking pathetic.
True.
I can't even believe that they thought this was, like, how could you possibly release a game like that? See, I never knew this before. Nothing else. Video game development, concessions, tough decisions, game you can make. Sometimes if the gods smile on you, the two are very close. But in order to get there, in order to get as close as possible to the vision, the team has to push itself harder and harder, often while dealing with devs being shuffled around or leaving, looming deadlines, and creative decisions you wish you didn't have to make.
There doesn't need to be a random Aztec god smiling upon you after a blood sacrifice of a goat and 3 women's hearts on you for you to not write the shitty dialogue that you wrote in Starfield. That is not required, okay? It's super simple. It's just not required.
And team is absolutely the operative word here. Yes, of course, right? Because team allows them to completely obfuscate any sort of accountability. So it's...
I think, dude, I don't know if this is in general of American problem, but the moment he says the word team, we've watched the videos of the original dude that worked on Fallout, one of the lead devs, right? And then he worked on Outer Bonds, Outer Rim, or whatever it was called. It was a pretty good game. I sadly didn't play, but it was a spiritual successor to Fallout, right? He talked about this thing. And I don't know if this is an American problem or what's the deal here with developers. But I'm not gonna go too long into this. There's a whole video of me talking about it because it's business and business structuring. So I really love that stuff. So the problem essentially was this: he is a good developer. He knows that X thing can be done in literally a day. If someone who understands what they're doing works on it for a game. And so they're making a project, and he says that he needs this done. And the ETA given to him for that thing being done is 6 months. And he's like, what do you mean 6 months? I can do this in a day. Anyone who knows what they can do this in a day. Like, I will even take a week. But what do you mean 6 months? Because that guy knows what he's doing. And that thing was, something that actually can be made in a day or two if you're competent. But the estimated time for the delivery on that thing in the company was 6 months. And this was crazy. Not because it's 6 months, but because of the problems. You see, when you're the leader of a company and you know something can be done in a day, but someone is literally unironically telling you, hey, I need months to do this, you have 2 choices. You either fire them or you teach them. Okay? So, and these choices depend on purely the situation you are in. Now, I understand game development and blah, blah, blah. Probably you can't fire everyone. Okay? And everything that's even a bit advanced, you can't always fire everyone. You need people to stay. So, this is what happens. If you can replace that person, because there are offerings, there are people who are looking for jobs like this, you fire them instantaneously. No questions asked. If you can replace them fast enough, hey, you fire them. Always. But if you can't fire them, which was, by the way, the outcome of this situation, you're supposed to teach them. You're supposed to get someone who actually teaches them what the fuck this is. How to do it optimally, what's the thought process there, and things like that. This is what happens in any competent company, but doesn't happen in American gaming companies. So, they didn't fire the guy who said that he needs literally 6 months for it. They got to the point where, okay, he's gonna do it in a month. He's gonna try real hard and do this thing that can be done in a day, in a month. What? And the guy who was now the lead of the new company that was making this game was like, and that's it. That's the end of the story. I'm scratching my head. Why is no one teaching that guy? If he doesn't know how to do it, but he's not fired, why is no one sent to teach him to do these things? Like, how does this make sense? Sending someone to teach someone that takes like a fucking day at maximum, or even 2, is so much better than waiting 6 months for them to deliver on something. I don't know if this is American problem in general, because I was so shocked, because I agreed with pretty much 90% of everything that guy says about business and how things happen in businesses. You know, how teams operate and stuff like that. I agreed with everything, but that just shocked me.
It's never anyone's fault for something. Nobody can ever be at fault because every decision is collective. Yeah, that doesn't work. Because whenever nobody can be at fault, you can't solve problems.
By the way, this collective at fault doesn't work like that. Like, if you're working with a place that doesn't have specifically laid out job descriptions and what they need to do, you're working in a very, very low common denominator workplace and you're probably dead because you're bad. I'm not gonna lie. If someone's job cannot be even accredited to them if they finish it, like, what the hell are we talking about here? Sad.
This people constantly pointing fingers at you while you don't have the necessary resources for success just plain sucks. Then they have engineered a situation that causes them to fail.
But there's a multi-billion-dollar company. They have no excuses to not have the tools to fix a problem if that occurs. Even though that's obviously a lie in Bethesda's case. There's no problem that they need to fix. They're just idiots.
Then that's also their fault. There is never, like, it's a management issue, then that's also their fault. And by the way, this guy's the design director. It's not like he's like a random programmer. I blame the boss after the product. Oh, it's always somebody else's fault. Oh, it's somebody else that caused this to happen. Was this the guy that was in charge of having the entire solar system in some areas in Starfield be completely devoid of life or any points of interest other than a cave? You're telling me you couldn't have procedurally generated anything out of that? You're telling me that you have the Spacers, the Eclipsion, and also the Crimson Fleet all be looking exactly the fucking same, except for one little insignia?
I mean, the Crimson Fleet is kind of red-ish most of the time, so that's 2 differences. But yes, he's completely right. Again, everything that has happened to Starfield is just a woeful lack of any expertise, of any level of just competency. That's it. Anyone who's trying to say, oh, Starfield developers are not incompetent is either lying or an idiot. There is no situation where you can justify the Starfield devs as competent or close to competent. Sad.
Behave the same, they act the same, they talk the same. This is a joke. How can you possibly think this is okay? People that are working on a video game by themselves can do better than this. This is a multi-million-dollar studio, but that's just massive. And you want us to see, oh, how hard it is? Maybe stop making it so hard. He thinks he is realistic, so in his mind, realism is greater than fun is insane.
I don't think he's pointing to that. There's no realism
between trying to teleport constantly. There's no realism between having a loading screen to sit down in your ship. Like, that's not even true. Like, if you want to make a realism argument, then that's...
Oh, he's complete... There's no realism argument to be made about, but there's Starfield. Todd Howard is just an absolute cuck in this respect. By the way, you know what's the funny part about the sit-down animations? He's wrong. Those are not loading screens. You know what's one of the most funniest things that got me about Starfield? You know when you're in your ship, you're in orbit, and you press jump to a different planet, and you see this animation where the ship turns and starts winding up and goes through the tear, the thingamajig wormhole-ish type of thing. That's not a loading screen. That is literally an unskippable cutscene. Yeah. The landing animation is not a load screen. The landing animation, the wormhole animation, those are unskippable cutscenes that contribute 0 to the loading. Yeah, when the cutscene is done, only then the game starts actually loading, which is the most probably insane thing about Starfield. Like, They did not go. They did not take 10 steps 10 steps back with the loading screens. They took 200 trillion steps back. They're back in the Stone Age with that. The fact that they couldn't even combine the forced unskippable animations with the loading screens is insane. Okay? Because yeah, none of those things are loading screens. They don't contribute to the loading screens. They're animations that happen before the loading screens. It's crazy.
Fine. But like there are lots of other problems that are just completely unrealistic as well. Bethesda has a net worth of $3 billion. Yeah, and they
yeah, but there's a company that costs that is worth multiple billions, owned by a company that is worth multiple hundreds of billions.
I'm losing my fucking mind. The team is absolutely operative word here. Lots and lots of people doing lots of work. Writing, level building, making character models, coding game systems, trying to schedule it all so it can get done and folks don't burn out, on and on.
Who cares?
This is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. So sure, you can dislike parts of a game, you can hate a game entirely, but don't fool yourself into thinking you know why it is the way it is, unless it's somehow documented and verified, or it got to be that way, or how it got to be that way.
Why do we need to care
Let me
about
give
that?
you a little bit of advice, okay?
Sad.
Just because you can intellectualize your inadequacies as a team doesn't mean that other people are wrong whenever they see that they are
Big
inadequate.
words.
You're trying to intellectualize a problem and take it into this like abstract concept so there can be no blame assigned to anybody. At the end of the day, this was a...
I see Asmongold is fighting random words and shitty takes with random words and stupidity. Nice.
Game that probably cost over $1 billion to make,
Nice.
easily in the hundreds of millions. And it was a fucking joke. Everybody online thinks that it's a fucking joke. And I guarantee you it will affect the sales of the next game because of how much of a fucking joke it was. So, at the end of the day, like, does it matter?
Yeah. Because of how bad Starfield is, and knowing that Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be on the same exact engine as Starfield, I see a lot of people commenting that they are not gonna, that they are no longer excited for Elder Scrolls 6, that they are not gonna buy Elder Scrolls 6 on release because of how bad Starfield is.
Like, oh, we don't know how it happened. We don't care. And also, I don't believe this idea. I genuinely don't believe this idea that all of the players are totally stupid and we have no idea how things work. I totally disagree with that.
Yep.
And I think that the Diablo stash tab thing completely proved my point. I think that it's not that complicated. I think there's not that much to it. And I think the problems are absolutely fucking evident to anybody who is even there for a day. Watch them work for a day and you can tell me what I probably could tell you what the problems are. I think any of you guys could. Nothing special about me at all. Just because I don't
Yeah, that's possible, but I doubt it.
know how a car is made doesn't mean I don't know how hard it is to make a car. Still not going to drive a broken car. Yeah, exactly. You can't criticize me for making a shitty game. Stop it. No. Even in the abstract, it's a bad argument. If you don't know something, you've made a theory around it. And also, like, how much do you want to bet? And by the way, really interesting thing here. He never offered any real explanations of why the problems exist. Okay, so you're telling us that it's totally reasonable that you make a bad menu and then a modder can fix it in a day. Okay, so this is totally reasonable. Okay, why? Oh, there's no reason why. You can't explain why. And we're just supposed to believe you?
Okay, to simplify... Okay, he's right about this, but to simplify it in normal human speak... he's just saying the reason this guy is saying, oh, it's so hard, but not giving examples or really going into the details why it's hard and why you shouldn't play this. He's just saying, oh, it's hard because it's hard. Because this guy who's posting understands the moment he tries to explain this is hard because of X, everyone will laugh at him because that's not true.
Are you kidding me? What? Why would anybody believe that? Non-disclosure agreements? Sure. Yeah, no, I'm sure they can't explain some things. But the one guy in Diablo 4 did. He said what he thought. Devs for big companies have huge egos, and they shouldn't. Not unless they make good games. And you know what the funny thing is? Never do you have the developers from actual good games saying this stuff. Does Miyazaki come out and talk about this stuff? No. Does Kevin Jordan ever talk about that with Classic WoW? No. Does Yoshi P ever talk about that? No. Isn't it interesting that the only people...
Well, to be fair, I'm pretty sure I have heard some of them talk about the hard parts of developing, but they have no reason to talk about this stuff because those are considered good games, okay? We forgive a lot of things. Okay, movies are the greatest example of what we look into when it's bad and what we look at when it's good. If you have a bad movie, you're gonna criticize it on on very basic level of incoherent things, right? And when it's a good movie, those same incoherent things can be present in the exact same way. But as long as it's a good movie, you don't care. As long as it's good, we overlook so many things. The moment it's bad, we start to nitpick. We start to look into things. Okay. If Starfield was good, no one would care that all the enemies look the same. If Starfield was good, no one would care that base building and ship building is stupid. If Starfield was good, no one would care about the lack of weapons in the game. If Starfield was good, no one would care about the bad talent systems and level ups. Okay? If the game is overall good, we overlook so many things. So many things we overlook. If something's bad, we literally go after everything, though. Also, I'm done with this video. Anyway, this was Quizzer Said, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.